You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei. Hello and welcome to the Techie Leadership Show. My name is Bogdan. I'll be your host for today. Co-hosting with me is Andrei.
Hey.
And as guest, we have the wonderful Kamil Politowicz. Kamil was born in Poland, migrated to Canada in 2012, and made it his second home there, well, except for winters. Currently, he works as a backend developer at Aurora Solar, mostly harmless stuff, 9,000 points to those who get the reference. After all these years as a programmer, he's still excited about it as if it was the first day. He's eager to learn new stuff and help others learn. Welcome, Kamil.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
As a small side note for our listeners, Kamil and us go back to our Canadian days. He was our CTO while we worked for, where we were colleagues at our Canadian employers. And he has much more extensive software development experience than he let off. So would you like to add a little bit more about yourself, Kamil?
Sure, of course. Well, I mean, I've been computer geek for basically as far as I go. I got my first Commodore 64 at the age of 8 or 9, but I was already programming on paper before that. So I mean, like it was. I mean, when it comes to choosing careers, it was basically the only choice, really.
Yeah.
And I have to say I'm first and foremost a developer or engineer, if you will. And I really don't like being a manager. I don't mind being a leader in a broad sense of the word if organization needs a little bit of leadership. But being manager is not my thing, and I realized that like in so many, not only once in my life, but so many times. Every time I went out of my comfort zone to do something else, be it like marketing, be it product management or something like that, I always return to my easy developer's career.
The first love.
First love.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's not for everyone, and it's good that you found your so-called calling.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious, what are the 9,000 points?
Yeah.
Because I don't get the reference.
You don't get the reference. It's from Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. And it's basically like that was the entry for Earth in the Galactic Almanac, mostly harmless, and that was it. So
okay, I get it now. Now I feel like
I totally recommend to read the book. It's so funny. It's amazing.
I keep hearing recommendations for it, especially online.
Just please don't watch the movie first. I mean, movie is great on its own for other reasons, but book is obviously better.
Of course, it's a condensed version.
For sure. And I also find like really interesting because some people might not get the reference programming on paper.
Oh yeah.
I did it also because computers were scarce in my time when I was young.
Yeah, but I think like do you think like it helped you like to develop this kind of like, you know, debugging code in your head abilities?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. It's something that I recommend everybody that wants to become a developer, or if there are developers, try writing code on paper, and then you're going to learn a lot about your coding style and how good you are. And
I picked up programming later on, so computers weren't any longer scarce.
I still made him use paper.
And I notebooks, couple of notebooks, just pure code written. It's something. I think it has to do with muscle memory. I know a lot of people disagree with the term, but I, for one, writing it with my hand, pen on paper, it's something about the way you do it and thinking about it. It creates another point of reference in your mind, helps you remember better.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So let's get to the stories. I'm really curious, Kamil, what stories you got.
Yes.
You want
Would you like to?
stories?
Yes, we want stories. Please share
Okay,
with
well,
us.
I may disappoint you here because I don't really have like very crushing examples of any of this. But
It
okay,
remains to be
let's start.
seen.
I mean, like first of all, like let me say before I like share like what I think it's the biggest leadership success story I witnessed. Uh, Let me share like that company I'm working for now, Aurora Solar, is kind of like a silent leadership success story.
Nice.
And I started working there in February this year, so I'm really new employee, and
Congratulations.
thank you. But the thing is, I went there for technology. I mean, they have awesome software to design solar panel installations, and it works in a browser, which is amazing. Like basically,
Nice.
Whoa.
CAD application working in a browser, pretty slick. It's business to business, so like not like for end customers, but still.
Even better.
And yeah, I went there for technology, but I found that what I like about company the most is like wonderful, awesome people working there. And I even
What more
asked,
can you
and
want?
it happens. It already happened during like interview phase when I met like my manager to be, and I realized I want to work for that company not only because of technology, but also because people actually care about you there. And I even asked the co-founder, Chris Hopper, about that, and he basically said that it starts with like hiring the right people. And by right people, you usually don't mean the people that are experts in the certain area you want them
Yes.
hired. That's important too. But they have to be kind people. They have to be good people. They have to care about people, and that's the success story at Aurora Solar. I'm kind of part of it right now. So
Nice.
Nice.
that's amazing like turn of events for me. And like but I think like the biggest leadership success story that I witnessed like in my life, but it's like
Okay.
success story of a company I never worked for. I would like to say it would be a
Basecamp.
Basecamp
Yeah.
as a
Yes.
company. Uh, for those of you outside of the Ruby world, it's a company that basically jumpstarted the whole Ruby as a web framework, Ruby on Rails revolution that basically changed my life personally and many other programmers around the world,
Same.
making
Yeah.
programming web app programming very fun, very easy, and very accessible. And they didn't stop at that. What I like about them is they are success company but they don't want to be the next Google, the next Uber, the next Facebook.
Yeah.
They just totally satisfied with being like a small business that does one job really well, keeps wonderful employees there. I always wanted to work there, like just didn't happen. But maybe after this podcast. Anyway,
Yes.
and they keep pushing like new technologies, contributing to open source, but also publishing books on how to run a successful company that makes people happy and makes people around them happy and makes customers happy and make everyone happy, right?
Yeah.
So like those books are like remote rework, and the recent one was it doesn't have to be crazy at work. I highly recommend
Yes.
that. We get to the book recommendations later.
Yes.
But the thing is, you want a calm company to be successful developer. You don't want distractions. You don't want leaders or managers getting in your face. You want to build something. You want to focus on something, and you want to be proud of it. And it doesn't require managers to to direct you or anything. So I think like the biggest success company, and basically they started, I think like 2006, and that's exactly where maybe a little bit earlier, but Ruby on Rails started 2005, 2006, and it basically started my programming career as it is now. And I still love Ruby, love Rails, and I couldn't imagine life without it. So that's a success story.
Yeah, we also love Ruby.
Yeah, we do. We do.
And I like your idea about working in a calm company. So it's not a crazy, always rushing, always managers breathing down your neck. Like, we're behind schedule. We have to, you have to push harder.
The point you made about having professional pride in the work that you do, I think that is beyond important, and I wish more people will get an understanding of that and hopefully experience it, because that's how you end up giving 100%, 110%, and delivering really good software. And not only, because you might have other professions, but you end up delivering a product that, even if for a little, makes other people's lives better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like later when we talk a little bit about like leadership philosophy, I will kind of like expand it. But now it's time to share the failure story, right?
Please
go with the failure story.
Again, first I want to start with saying like, if you are a person affected by bad management, bad leadership, it's totally okay to feel bad about it. You totally should be allowed to feel bad about it, and it's also important that you don't have to act right now. You don't have to make rash decisions. You don't have to, rage quit or like do something crazy about it. You can take your time. You can weigh your options and decide. Like the bad leadership may affect you in very bad ways, but it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have immediate effect, and also you can do something about it. So it's important to try to make it better before actually, saying I'm done with that. I think like the biggest, I mean, I can't name like a single like biggest failure, but I think like most of the management leadership failures for me were connected to what I call garage company owner syndrome or micromanagement.
Okay.
So basically, it's kind of like, usually it starts with a company built by one person, or literally from their homes or from their garage or whatever. And that person, like, it's totally fine, like running the business, developing the business, until it grows to the size when they can't do everything themselves, right?
Yes. But
they still have this mindset of like, if not me, then who will do this the right way, right? I'm the person who knows the company best, so I'm obviously the person who knows all things about the company best, and I will do everything in this company, even though there is not enough time in 24 hours a day, right? And this kind of mindset like brings a lot of trouble to people who they hire to do their jobs. And whether it's development or marketing or sales, you hire people who are good at those jobs, and you hire people for that particular reason.
Exactly.
And there is no reason for that to tell them what to do and how to do their jobs, right? So you kind of like sit back. You should sit back. You should still drive the company's direction. And what's more important, you should probably provide some metrics like how you progress along the way. But the job should be done by people you hire. So I think that the biggest failures in the leadership, for me at least in my life, were coming from like managers trying to micromanage things and trying to tell professionals what to do and how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's key. If you hire professionals, let them do their job. Don't interfere with them and then complain that it doesn't get done correctly because you've interfered with it. See what results you're going to get at the end, and then see if you can work with them, improve on something, give them feedback, so they also grow and improve in their career. But don't start off the bat like micromanagement and say this is how it's done here.
I can understand being more intrusive, so to say, in the first couple of months when your employee or new teammate comes in. He's new, you haven't built up a trusting relationship yet. But if you have a person that did great work in the past 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, or sometimes even longer than that, let them do their thing. Trust them.
Yeah. Also, you have people, like in even in like already middle-sized companies, you have people on the team, right, who can introduce on board other people. You don't have to be doing it as a CEO of the company, for example, or the owner or someone like that, right? But it also applies to all levels of management, right? I mean, like software projects management suffer the same thing under micromanagers, and it can happen everywhere. So the key is like to hire people that kind of like don't have this type of mindset or are easily persuaded that it's not not really necessary.
And it can also happen like a side project in a company, a developer builds it, he gets really attached to it, it becomes really successful, he gets promoted to lead the project, it's his baby, and then he becomes a tyrant with the team that is built around him to make it even more successful. So it's not just being the owner, it can happen at different places in at different levels in companies. So and it's tough. And I'm really curious, Kamil, because you said like if you suffer from bad management, you gave like really good advice. Don't take decisions really quickly in
don't
anger.
Rage quit.
Yes, and you also said you can do something about it. I'm really curious, what can you do about it?
Well, you can try. Obviously, it won't work like 100% situations, but I mean, if you're an engineer with certain experience, building a good team is not unlike building a good software, right? It's kind of like you already have enough experience to be a leader, even if you're not manager. So what you can do as a senior developer, for example, you can create a little bit of bubble, a little bit of buffer between this, let's say, micromanager and your team, right? You can try to steer the work in a direction that manager wants to do without like them interfering with your team, or at least you can try, right? That's what I would recommend. Again, it doesn't work 100% of times, but I mean, what else can you do?
Two interesting points regarding this. I heard from two separate guests in previous interviews. One of them said regarding the garage owner business style, says if you really want to focus, if you're the owner of the company and you want to still be in it like you were at the beginning, that's okay. If you want to do that, hire somebody to take care of the business side. Hire somebody explicitly to be the CEO. And then if you are part of the team knows that, listen, he might be the owner, he's not the boss. Okay, I understand why he's coming at me. He's fully focused just to work at the same level as me. He doesn't have to do two separate things, manage the business and manage me. So that makes more sense. And also regarding the other part with micromanaging. I love this one. It says there are short-term goals, couple of days, medium-term goals, couple of weeks, and long-term goals, 1 year and over. It's only micromanaging if you have that immediate presence for long-term goals, because it makes sense to be implicated for short-term goals. Nobody feels that is micromanagement. But if you're on my behind every day for something that I already told you it will take 3 months for me to finish it, and every day you're asking, how's it going? Hey, Kamil, how is it going? Anything new? Did you push something? Just leave me alone. That's micromanaging.
Yeah,
But if it's
true.
something like coming for, if I remind you, listen, we have a very important meeting at 2, and I remind you in the morning, and then if I pass by you and say, oh, remember, we have that meeting, that it makes sense. It's short term.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's true. I think I read it on Jason Fried's blog. That Jason Fried is co-founder of Basecamp, by the way. That like there is really a power behind being CEO, and you have to really be careful what you're saying, because if you ask totally benign question like how this thing is going, we talked about it on the meeting, how is it going, immediately employees assume that it's like highest priority right now. It's just employees mindset to like, CEO wants to know how this is going, this should be our focus right now. And then CEO goes again, goes around and asks another person about something else, and now that becomes a focus. And so you really have to be careful, when you're CEO, like what are your questions, how you asking them, so and that you make clear that it's actually just a small talk or something like that, instead of like, okay, now the company is totally in this direction, right?
And that's so true, because it happened to me while I was and was surprised. You have to have a sort of mindset shift. When I was like the director of operations at an outsourcing company, and it was my first position, being like the second man inside the company. I was outside with people talking, and a project came up in the discussion, and I said, don't worry, we just have to trim some fat. But it was about trimming some requirements from it, not the people on it. And everybody stopped and said, are you firing people? I was no. For God's sakes, no. We're just streamlining the whole project so the people that are on it can do it. Yeah. So, and then it was like a powerful realization for me. I have to be really careful what I say, because this time I could see the reaction and do something about it. But I might mention something like that has no real value, but people can take it and it spread like wildfire in a company.
Separation of responsibilities.
Yes.
There are things that you need to know, and there are things that you will need to know, but not right now.
Yeah. And with that, Kamil, because you already hinted at it, what is your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like already hinted, yes. With all those examples and everything, I think okay, I just say it like successful leadership for me is like a film score. You hear it in the background, it kind of supports the action, but it doesn't destroy the experience of watching a movie, and it doesn't go in your face, doesn't stand in the way, right? But then you can like replay it, you can buy a soundtrack, and you see like, oh my God, this is great. This is what I heard like all the while watching movie, and it kind of like gave me this additional feeling of whatever the movie was about. And you see like it's great. So it's the same with leadership. You can read like leadership biography or anything like that, or you can hear about like good leadership or management stories like on your management program or something like that. But it didn't happen like, it probably didn't happen like this when it was happening. It was just in the background.
Yes.
So My philosophy is management is there, leadership is there to support people in doing their job, right? And it only steps up when you have a trouble or you need help or you need something, right? So for example, like if you have too many distractions, you have manager to step in and kind of like clean your workplace around you so we can focus on your high priority project, for example. And so basically that's kind of like my philosophy. And what it comes down to, it's, I think leadership, like the biggest characteristic managers can have is humility. As a person, as a human, and also intellectual humility. So basically, like the humility for me is like not putting your ego in front of you everywhere, like you're not the most important person. You may be my manager, you may be the CEO of the company, but you're not the most important person in the world for every employee you hire, right? So, you know. And intellectual humility is basically about admitting you don't know everything and eagerness to learn. So, you have all those wonderful people that are doing stuff for you, and you have to admit at some point that, if you focused, maybe you would be better at this, but first of all, you don't have time for that. And second of all, they're already great at that, and you may learn a thing or two from some people. You may be expert in certain, like let's say I consider myself professional and pretty advanced level in software building, right? But I would still get advice from front-end developer because I'm not comfortable with building front-end stuff with. So and I also would take advice from someone someone in managerial position if I have trouble, for example, like managing my time or something like that. So and also but that works in the other direction. Manager can learn from me, like I have a lot to teach you about like building software. So even if you've been developer before, but now you're manager, you might have been out of touch with the technology for a few years.
True.
Let me tell you like how I would do that, right? So it's kind of I think that humility is like the most important things leader can have to actually, I mean, obviously there are other values like like strictly connected to leadership, like having a vision or driving things, a drive.
Yes.
But if you have all that and you don't have humility, it becomes a little hell you're building for your employees,
Every day, vision. This is the vision. Look at it.
I still remember the first time a manager said, "Oh, yeah, I made a mistake. Thank you for pointing that out." And I was like, "What? This is nice." I can speak with this person.
It's a good feeling, yes.
Yeah.
We should never feel ashamed to apologize if we made a mistake. Making mistakes is normal. Okay, hiding mistakes isn't normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
You make a mistake, you solve it. If somebody points it out to you, you thank that person. It's human nature.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it all depends, like how you point it out too. I mean, like I think managers should be like really, really kind and careful about those things. I mean, obviously the the so-called sandwich. You put some good news and you put bad feedback and then some other good news. It's a total crap. I mean, it's a total bull crap. But you have to be careful, like not to personalize your feedback, right? But other than that, I totally agree. I really love managers who can actually admit that they may be wrong. And actually, like I wanted to say, like, my current manager is like, I mean, he has like lots of good qualities as a manager, like very technical person, very good, knowledge of the
Yes.
of the thing. But I personally think about him as a person who, like, before making any big decision, like management decision, the first thing that he asks is like, will that hurt people? How will
So nice.
people in my team feel about if I do it this way? And it's kind of like it's came up like multiple times already in many situations, and I feel like it's the greatest thing that happened to me, that you have a manager that actually cares, not only
Yeah.
about like deadlines and progress and project management and anything like that, but also cares like how people feel about like the way I manage team, right? How can we improve? How can we do it better? How can we make people more comfortable doing what they
Yeah,
love,
Yeah.
right?
that is so.
Powerful.
Yeah, really powerful. And I hope that people listening to this don't poach your manager
Yeah.
in the competition. And then you get a bad
Hopefully not.
manager, you come again and you can have new stories.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. So I mean, like, if I had to, I mean, again, I'm not a great leader myself. I don't pretend to be manager. I really feel great, like having this warm fuzzy feeling that you get from building stuff that is functional but also beautiful inside, like, software.
Nice.
I think like programming is an art, and I feel like I'm good at this, and I don't want to change my career for any tier of management. But I think like the leadership tips from me would be like, be humble, be open to learning experiences, be kind, and just be human, basically.
Okay. And are those the leadership tips like for aspiring leaders?
For aspiring leaders,
Yes.
well, I mean, let me put it in the perspective. Like when you are a junior programmer, all you care is technology. You want to get
Yes.
better with your tools, with your programming language, with your editor, with your versioning system, and whatever. You're getting better and better at this. You understand the systems. You understand like how to develop like architectures, how to connect components together, and stuff like that. All you care about it is getting better in this technical.
Yes.
But once you get to like the programmer level, let's say, the only way to get into senior programming is to also understand people. You
Yes.
Yeah.
can't as a programmer, and I think you mentioned it, Bogdan, on your podcast before, that that programmers are often seen as people like very introvert,
Yeah.
very closed,
Yes.
very focused on the work, on the machines,
Yeah.
and not really caring about people. No, senior developers, I mean, the only way you can be a senior developer is to care about people, about team, about how to how to connect expertise of so many people on your team to build
Yes.
something wonderful, something bigger than sum of its parts. So it's kind of that's why I'm saying like being humble, being human is a key to any leadership position, even if you don't want to be a manager.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's true. If you want to grow and have like a senior or be a team lead on a technical team, it shifts from technology first to people first. And that's something you have to do. It doesn't work any other way. If not, you're going to have basically live flame wars
Yeah.
inside the company.
And also, it's the only way you can ever develop. Well, aside from having stupid luck, It's the only way you can make great UX and great UI. Because for me at least, and I know for a lot of people, great UX and great UI isn't how it looks. It's partly how it feels, but the most important stuff is it's intuitive. And you cannot create intuitive design if you have no idea how people function, how people work. So some of the best software developers, yeah, they know how people function, they know how they'll use the product, how they'll interact with it, and super important.
Yeah, like as a side note, I was attending like a usability test recently. Not as an interviewer, but as a person like just watching the process. And I mean, it blows your mind how your users are knowledgeable on so many levels about the software, and how much good feedback can you get from them on a very short session. You may, as a developer or programmer or someone like very focused on your software, you may think like things are easy, or that's the best we can do. And then comes a user and tells you, like, in my situation, we don't use those defaults. We would probably want something set for us here automatically and stuff like that. And they may not know about like how you build software, how you create a user experience in general, but they know what bothers them, and share, and their input is so valuable. So yeah, that's
talk to your users. It's really important.
And you hear it once in one person, then you hear something similar in another person. By the time you have 10 users, you're like, well, maybe this actually is a thing that's quite necessary. Let me look into it deeper.
And it's still a people skill that you have to have.
Yeah. Knowing how to ask the questions to get to the correct answers. Yeah. Huge people skill. So looking back on that, what would be the book that had the most profound impact on you?
I feel so silly right now, because like I usually don't read managerial books, for the reason
it doesn't have to be a managerial book. Any book.
Managerial book. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, I think like the like professionally, like the best, the book that basically shaped me. And again, you might have gotten a hint from my talking before. It was definitely Agile Web Development with Rails by Dave Thomas. It was basically the book that started Rails for me. And like, like I was programming Java at the time, and basically never ever used Java again since that moment in my life. So that's definitely like professionally. I think like the book that kind of shaped my life in a way was books, mostly like what you would consider hard science fiction, like from the 50s, 60s, 70s. So I got totally hooked by Lem, which is a Polish author. I totally recommend. You may know Solaris from the movie at least.
I think I heard about
it. At least the Hollywood version. There is Russian version too.
Okay,
pretty good. But yeah, I was formed by books like Fables for Robots, for example, where they kind of like describe this weird world where you can just have engineers tinker something out, and it becomes like artificial intelligence like right away. So it was fun. And then obviously Asimov Foundation and the robot cycle, the 3 laws of robotics, right? I always kind of like, it's a really neat idea, like to develop robots that actually can't harm people. and they even develop
Yes.
Azlet, and they develop their own law on top of that, don't harm humanity as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Important.
So I really appreciate that. Recently, I mean, I wouldn't say it shaped me like early or anything like that, but recently I really enjoyed the book Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows. It's a book about, I mean, well, we programmers are very used to like divide and conquer strategy. So basically, in order to solve a problem, you kind of think to decomposing into small parts that you actually can hold in your head, and kind of like implement one thing after the other until it becomes whatever. This book kind of teaches you to think about systems as more than some of those components, and kind of like to view the systems through the eye of the inputs, outputs, flows inside and stocks inside. And it's really great book like for engineers that want to improve like the overall ability to create, to build, but also for managers to understand like development process more. So I mean, it's really great. I highly recommend. It's very, and it's non-technical read. It's like there is nothing about software there, just description of, you know, about like how simple system, let's say a system like water tank behaves, right? And then drawing analogies to how the whole economies of countries behave. And turns out some of those things are very similar, if not the same. So I highly recommend that. So, and of course, I already mentioned it doesn't have to be crazy at work. Very nice for calm workplace. So
awesome. I'm definitely getting thinking in systems now.
I love the part that it has analogies is what hooked me to it. I have a fondness for authors that can take a complex subject and basically explain it to me like I'm a child. Okay, and make analogies so that I can equate with other experiences to better understand what they're talking about. I love that.
And retain the knowledge.
Yeah. I just love that.
And Kamil, if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Well, I'm on Twitter at K Politowicz. I will give you like the copy paste of my handle. And that's basically it. I mean, if you want to connect with me, I don't use Facebook right now. I feel like they overstep the boundaries, and, and at least like the least you can do. I mean, of course, I would love to see them regulated in some way, but the least you can do is just walk away. So I'm really concerned about like a general concept of privacy right now. By the way, another book I probably should mention, it's the latest Snowden's book. I don't remember the title, but his only book. But yeah, it was. It gives you like a really chilly like 1984 kind of feeling, like what is happening with all those intelligence programs that basically designed to spy on you and everything. But anyway, Twitter is the only social media I use, and I don't have a blog, I don't have a podcast like you guys. So if you want to connect with me, ask me a question, or get in touch, that's Twitter.
Awesome, Kamil. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Learned a lot.
Yeah,
still learn a lot after knowing
you. It's been a pleasure to me. I think it went better than I expected it will be. But again, you guys are really good at like getting people to talk about things that matter for them. So I really appreciate the invite.
Okay, thank you.
Our pleasure.
Bye.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com. including links to the guest book recommendations.